welcome to Emotional Grit, the podcast where you can learn about the power of perspective and the science that fuels us. I'm your host, Jennifer Fernjack, and I'm happy to say that my guest today is my good friend and former neighbor, Gina Andraschko. She's going to talk today about how a health scare has compromised her ability to speak. However, she has plenty to say about the power of emotional grit and resilience. So, Gina, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Sure. So back in 2020, you had a stroke, and based on the location of your stroke, it caused a couple of different things in your brain. One of which, I have my notes here, one of which is pronounced aphasia, and the other one is apraxia. And with aphasia, that might sound familiar to some people because the actor Bruce Willis has some symptoms of that. But if you could describe that a little bit, just as far as the different symptoms and what is the difference between the two different conditions.
Yes. Aphasia is more than, for me, word finding difficulties and placements of words in my brain. I need to place it in the sentence correctly. And apraxia is more than aphasia. It's different. I lack almost coordination of my muscles to inflect my voice or use appropriate volume, or I struggle with actual syllable by syllable how to say that word or one phrase.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, and I remember last summer when you and I were kayaking, and you had mentioned to me at one point when we stopped that maybe like 10 minutes earlier, you wanted to point out to me a bird that was, it might have been a loon, but there was some bird, but you didn't say anything because you knew by the time you could kind of formulate what you wanted to say, our kayaks would have been long past the bird. Like we were already so many feet away, the bird's already gone, you know? So it's that delay in thinking of what you want to say and then being able to articulate it. So I can appreciate that.
Yes.
But I know when I was looking at your Caring Bridge site, you mentioned a term you've coined called frozen tongue syndrome. And I'm wondering if you could give some examples of that.
Yes. With not having the language disturbance, sometimes you mentioned in the aisle, too many choices with a grocery aisle. It's so overwhelming.
Yeah.
One story about frozen tongue syndrome. I was at the brewery and I was almost successful ordering my food truck food, but I froze and looked behind me with a line accumulating, and I said, yeah. That is, my friend, that is my order as well. Can you replicate my order to yours?
It's so just, you had to pivot.
Yes.
Absolutely. I can appreciate that. So when people, just generally speaking, notice you're kind of having a hard time either formulating a thought or maybe you have the thought, but you're not quite sure how to get it out. I know you've mentioned before that there are 3 different types of people as far as how they respond. You know, one, it sounds like people have a good heart so that they want to automatically jump in and help, and they want to like finish your sentence for you or assume what word you're going to use and, you know, and blurt it out for you. And whereas other people don't know what to do, so they're more apt just to kind of stand there and kind of watch you struggle a little bit with what it is that you want to say. And then the third person that you've mentioned is someone who is more apt to like wait for cues from you. You know, so maybe waiting for you to go kind of like this, like help me out here, or something to kind of let them know that you that you want some help. Are there any tips for people as far as what to look for as far as cues or how people should handle stuff?
Good question. I think just being patient in general is a good tip, but um, just being present in the moment to in line, but always on the phone is not a good recipe to notice things. And I think I help my friends who have aphasia, but only when the people are needing help or asking for help. Just be patient and understanding with the on in line or it's that is a simple tip, I think.
I could see that. I know that my prior episode of the podcast, I interviewed someone who has red hair, and we talked about how red hair can affect pain perception and how oftentimes people with red hair need more anesthesia. They react differently to Novocaine. It might wear off more quickly, just kinds of things like that. And one thing that we talked about in that episode, which applies to your episode now as well, is the fact that when people don't understand what's going on, like someone who looks at you, it doesn't realize that there is any kind of a cognitive issue or what have you. And so people don't really always know how to react because they're usually surprised. Whereas if somebody has a crutch or a cane or a cast, something tangible, then people know something's wrong and have a better idea as to how to respond. But that's not the case, here. So now with your stroke, where were you when it happened?
At home in my bed, or actually on the couch, but I had a huge headache and I was not wanting to disturb my husband with his work schedule with needing to sleep. And I stroked in my sleep.
Wow. So was it solely a headache, or did you also feel like muscle aches in other places or things like that?
No, unfortunately, I was at the ER the prior day, and I was discharged with a migraine headache. And I stroked in my sleep about 18 hours later.
Wow.
I was having a huge headache. Also, I had eye disturbance on one side and eventually both sides. And the medicine with headache medicine, the ER provided, the eye disturbance left, but the headache was not breaking much.
And with the eye disturbance, how would you describe that?
Blurry eye or almost wavy with one eye. It's in the summer with hot pavements, the what to say, wavy lines.
Oh, almost like steam kind of, or
Yes,
heat.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. But people are how to say, experiencing different auras before a stroke.
Wow. Okay. And are strokes genetic, or are they? I mean, what causes them?
Good question. And I have, well, my stroke happened 4 years ago, and I was 44 and healthy. I have a rare condition in my brain. My sister is as well, but a lot of causes for a stroke is high blood pressure or uh, uncontrolled blood pressure issues, uh, generally not healthy, not working out. It's a lot of causes, but
Okay.
unfortunately for me, it's a genetic thing.
Okay. So I know that for years you were a nurse, and so in addition to being a parent, so you're normally in a caregiver mode. So to go from being a caregiver to a patient, what was that? What was that like? Did it give you an appreciation for different things?
Oh man, in my brain, after the stroke, I was most definitely here, but I'm not able to say anything of uh, matter. I mean, I was only one word and or two, yes or no, but also I interchanged the yes and no often in the
Oh,
early days. But um, looking back at the early days of the stroke, man, I underestimated the stroke survivor completely because as a nurse, I cared for people having a stroke many times. But man, so awful of not having the ability to sometimes comprehend. I was a lucky survivor, but um, uh, sometimes more deficits for motor things. I was lucky. But I just feel for my husband and the younger daughter. The other daughter was at college, but the younger daughter and my husband automatically were thrust into a caregiving role.
right.
That is relinquishing my care was not a problem initially because I was a zombie.
Mm.
But man, I look back at the whole thing it's amazing.
Well, and the thing is, when someone's a caregiver at home like that, there is no leaving work at work because the work, so to speak, is at home. So
Yep,
it's like all the time.
yep.
So I think it's so fantastic that they were able to help, and also that you recognize that, to say thank you or what have you, or express it. That's huge. Now from an actual hospital perspective, given your tenure as a nurse, is there anything that kind of a rule of thumb that you would recommend now, whether it be to the doctors or nurses or anybody else who works at a hospital, as far as like maybe it's showing more empathy for people, or maybe it's be aware of the fact that there's things you can't see but they're still real, kind of a thing.
Yes. Particularly a rounding hospital or a teaching hospital, slow down the actual speech
Yeah.
because that is with unfamiliar words, diagnosis or tests results or
Yes.
hard of hearing. Uh, it's it's losing the patience, and now I'm uber conscientious about allowing to have my message sink in before asking another question. Just
Yes.
a little a little grace from myself might be worth a ton to the patient.
Oh, yeah. Because I think that it's one thing for someone to find out a message, like a diagnosis or what have you, mentally, like you know what it is. But there's also a lot of emotion and psychology that comes with that too, you know?
Yes.
So it's a lot to digest, you know? So
Yes.
I can appreciate that. I know that I had also noticed on your Caring Bridge site when you were talking about just trying to formulate your thoughts and be able to speak, that there's different things that are involved with that. You know, one is of course coming up with the actual word you want to use. Second of all, it's making a cognitive effort to use your tongue and the muscles in your cheeks and your mouth and just having the mechanics of it and figuring out that as well, and then being able to enunciate clearly. But then what I found especially interesting is that just because you're saying something, that's not always going to convey how you feel about it. So I know before we began recording this episode, we talked about how if you saw someone at a party and you said, "It's nice to meet you," that's not going to have nearly the same effect as "It's so nice to meet you." You know,
Yeah.
so it's not, so the words are the same, but it's how you express it. It's that voice inflection. It's being able to show emotion through the tone. It's those kinds of things that people take for granted until all of a sudden you can't do it.
Oh, and
Yeah.
I remember early days, so I was so robotic sounding.
Mm,
And it's still present, but much better
mm.
as the years and the work is being done. But oh man, da da da, it's just
Right.
Morse code like.
Right, exactly. So one thing that I read on your Caring Bridge site again that I made a note of here that I want to read to people, it made me swallow hard and I got tears in my eyes. So I want to share that with the audience here. You basically, let's see here. In a nutshell, you had basically written that you are actually grateful for those opportunities when you have to either switch gears and change which word you're going to use, or perhaps change the tone, or try to have a better cadence with the sentence, that kind of thing. That you're actually grateful for opportunities because it's how you're honing your craft. It's how you're learning. It's something tangible where you can now look backwards and see how far you come. And rather than getting discouraged every time, which of course you're human, I mean, there are going to be some times that are easier than others, but collectively, instead of letting it consume you or own you, you own it, you know, and you're trying to view those things in a positive way. And of course, to me, the one of the crown jewels of this interview is knowing that studies show that about 70 to 75% of the U.S. population is afraid to do public speaking, and that's
That,
people who don't have any kind of a speech impediment or some kind of a cognitive issue or what have you. They're fine, but it's still just kind of a human nature thing that most people are afraid to do it. Yet you, with the things that were triggered by your stroke, and knowing that sometimes you have a harder time articulating things or being able to convey what you want to say, you instead joined what's called, is it the Gavel Club or Gavel
yeah,
Group? Okay, yeah.
yeah.
That's inspired by Toastmasters. So again, rather than being home and kind of like, you know, being shy and not talking in front of people, you have faced the situation, gone out there, joined this gavel club, and not only do you have more confidence now when speaking because you're getting up on stage, you're having to memorize things ahead of time and getting up there and being able to convey them to an audience. But in addition to having more confidence now, you also have met people who understand firsthand what it's
Oh,
like to have these symptoms, and sometimes things are a new normal, whereas other things you think, no, you know what, I can still keep working on this, you know, and it's kind of that balance of knowing when you do have to adjust to a new normal and accept it versus things where you can keep again honing your craft and moving forward. So I'm just wondering, did it take a lot of convincing for you to join the Gavel Club, or were you like, no, I'm going to go do it?
no, my speech pathologist at rehab was involved with MNCAN. It's called, or stands for Minnesota Connect Aphasia Now. And the Gavel Club was a new offering. And she says, go get him. No, I'm not able to speak well. She said, try it. If you are not satisfied, whatever. And I tried it and I said, it's my people. It's just heartwarming, different spectrums of aphasia or apraxia are present in the world. But I was determined to just fight through the nerves, and I have many great friends because of this group, and more skills to tolerate my silence and think of the words I need to use or want to use, instead of just I can tolerate my silence after thoughts come to my brain, but
That's huge. That's huge. So, and of course I just said, I'm like, yeah, that's super impressive as I say, yeah. But when you have gotten up on stage or just said something in front of that group, there I go again. Did you have to get through butterflies in your stomach, or kind of that general fear of public speaking that most people have, but you just kind of powered through it and just kept going?
A little, but because I have the audience looking at me with aphasia, living with aphasia, I was more comfortable, I think. And the speech pathologists are ready to bridge the gaps if it's needed. But nice. More than not, the people are so welcoming, and I just powered through with initial sections, a little nerves, but other than that, I am
wow,
awesome group.
I'm so proud of you. That's so awesome. So I know just maybe 6 weeks or so after my radiation treatments were done, after my brain tumor surgery, which, just to remind people who are listening to this episode, I didn't have cancer, but because only half of the tumor was removed because of its proximity to the carotid artery, the remaining half got the radiation with the thought of killing the cells. But once those radiation treatments were done, I had an opportunity to get on stage at church. And I was told that I could have the pulpit for like 6 or 7 minutes, whatever it was, to get up there and share just kind of like what my story was and how I got through it, from the anticipation of surgery, the surviving of surgery, and then of course the radiation treatments. And people would say to me ahead of time, well, Jen, are you gonna be nervous to get on stage? And I was like, well, yeah, because at that time I hadn't done much public speaking, And then people would say, well, how many people are part of the congregation? Like, how many people does the sanctuary seat? And I'm like, oh, it's 1,000 times 4 services. So I'm going to be doing it in front of 4,000 people. Plus, there are people who watch virtually from around the world, like missionaries and different people. So people would say to me, well, if you're going to be nervous, how are you going to do this? And that's where I thought about, remember how back in math class, the idea of the greater than and less than signs? I thought about the greater than sign. And I would always say to people, my desire to help others is greater than my fear of the stage. Doesn't mean I can't be afraid. It means I'm going to do it anyway. And that's what inspired the title to my book. And I think about that with your situation. It's kind of like anybody in that Gavel Club, if they're nervous to get on stage, or maybe they're feeling self-conscious because of, their challenges they're facing with being able to speak. It's one of those scenarios where it's the desire to try to work on your speech and grow and move forward has to be greater than your fear of the stage. It doesn't mean you can't be afraid. It just means you're going to get up there and do it anyway. And I wish that more people would kind of cut themselves some slack and understand that, hey, you know what? It's normal sometimes to feel afraid, but where the decision comes in is deciding whether or not to face that fear and do it anyway. And that's exactly what you've done. So I think that's fantastic.
Thank you.
So bravo. Yeah.
Thank you.
So now, is there anything that like with your new normal, so to speak, after having the stroke itself, anything that you're still trying to grapple with? What are some of those symptoms?
Yeah. I was able to finish a 100-mile bike ride on my road
Raising
bike.
my toast for you.
Yes. But that was 2 years ago. Now I'm losing sensation, and hence I am losing the brain body connection with not feeling much with the right side, with holding forks or utensils in my hand or writing. I rely on my vision more to grip a glass. I know my the glass is in my hand, but I am lacking hold on, different word.
The sensation kind of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's interesting. So you have the dexterity to hold the glass,
yes.
but you can't actually feel it in your hand.
Not much. And I'm wrestling with, my countertops are granite. If I lose the glass, it's shattered, and I'm holding the glass so tightly because I'm looking at the glass, but shielding from falling.
That's interesting.
It's just odd, but hopefully the Mayo doctors are on to something with meds adjustment, but I don't know if it's a new normal or not.
Yeah. Now, can you feel the sensation of something with your leg, like on the right side? Like if you had a plate on your lap, could you feel it on your right leg?
It's less affected by the lower limbs, but more affected by the right arm and hand. That was my originally I had one side down completely. I was paralyzed, and gradually for the ICU stay, I was regaining function on the leg. Several days I was able to move my hand and arm later.
Wow. The body's an amazing thing. I mean, just how the mechanics of it and how it's all kind of related and how that works. And, obviously you're in good hands with the Mayo. I mean, that's really cool,
Yeah.
So is there anything that I haven't asked about today that I should be? Anything you can think of, whether it's what to explain to people, kind of the fear of the unknown, or anything to caregivers or patients or anything?
Yes, thank you. I think having aphasia or apraxia is not the person having this anomalies are super intelligent.
Yeah.
I constantly, I am amazed about people heightening the volume of speech. I'm not hard of hearing at all. But same for intelligence. My young survivor group, uh, finance people or investor people. And it's just, I'm a nurse. One member is a banker. It's just, I would like to caution people, the intelligence is still intact most of the time.
Yes.
But
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I know this is going back a long time ago when I first moved to the Twin Cities after graduating from college. My roommate was going to law school. And so we had some people who were going to law school with her who were from Norway over for dinner. It was for Thanksgiving. And we invited one of our neighbors to join us. And our neighbor, not knowing Norwegian, of course, and not understanding that people from Norway speak English, that's how they can go to school here, you know. He thought if he talked more with like a louder voice and more slowly, they would understand him. So he'd be like, "How do you celebrate Thanksgiving in your country?" And it's like, that's, first of all, they can hear perfectly fine. Second of all, they're from a different country. They don't have Thanksgiving over in Norway. So, and then beyond that, they're going to law school. They're all super smart, you know. But yeah, he thought if he talked with a louder tone and more slowly, they'd understand him. And it's like, ugh. And then I know when a friend of mine's wife had knee surgery, they went to the state fair a few weeks later. And so she was in a wheelchair and he was pushing her around because she loves going to the fair. Well, there were so many people that would, again, talk like this to her, like super loud. And she's like, "Nothing's wrong up here. I just had knee surgery, you know." But yeah, people don't get it. They don't get it. So that's so funny. But I can also see why it's frustrating. So
yeah. And good, also people with aphasia or strokes in general, allow people grace, because the brain drain for the day is, I am done at midway to evening. Same for now. I'm just struggling with my speech because I had a lunch engagement prior to this. It's just, I am done halfway through the day.
Yeah.
Just allow people grace.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I think that's important, not only for patients, but also survivors and also caregivers, you know, so it's kind of a, you know, just, it's a good thing for everybody, you know. Yes. But for people who might want more information, whether it be about strokes or aphasia or apraxia, obviously Google's an option, but are you aware of any books or anything that, or websites you could point people to?
Hold on, American Heart has a lot in information. Other than that, MinCan, Minnesota Connect Aphasia Now. One book I just swear by, and also it's a little nerdy with the terms.
Yeah.
It's designed for stroke survivors, caregivers and medical personnel. It's called Stronger After Stroke. Awesome book, but
Oh,
it's a little Amazon provides a link for a audio book as well.
oh, for an
But
audio version.
the
Okay.
author is Pete Levine, and he's now passed away, but he was I think there hold on. Physical therapist doctorate level, but he's wonderful.
Cool. All right. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, then we can go ahead and wrap things up, but I want to do so by thanking you so much for being here. I mean, I can't get my head around the fact that you joined the Gavel Club and you're doing public speaking, when that would be something that'd be very easily avoidable, but no, it's like face that fear, try to get through and learn new things and hone your craft and move forward. So you're truly inspirational to people. So thank you for that. But
thank you for the invite and sharing or lighting the world to aphasia.
Oh yeah, sure. All right. And to those of you who are listening to the podcast, thank you for doing so. For more episodes, including this one as well, please feel free to go to my YouTube site at Emotional Grit. Thanks, everyone.